Well, welcome everyone to our 15th College Talk Tuesday. Tonight, we're going to be covering the topic of time management and balancing responsibilities and how to organize yourself. Today, we have our guest speaker, Don Liverman, who will be guiding us through a couple mechanisms that you can use to help keep yourself organized and on track, especially as you begin your college career. So welcome, Don. Thank you so much for joining us and for hosting this presentation with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Um, I had the great pleasure of working with this group of people when I lived out in Oregon. I have 10 years of higher education experience, mostly in the realm of academic advising, but also in the classroom teaching, in academic admissions and transfer admissions, and through open campus. So lots of different student experiences that I can reflect on, and almost all of them really crutched on, am I being successful? And if not, how can I be more successful? And those conversations typically came back to time management. It's a buzzword, so we hear it a lot. We as a society value people who can manage their time well, right? Like we see these hyper successful people and we think, oh my goodness, they're really, really good at time management. And I think that so often we get muddled down in what these words mean that we don't take an opportunity to reflect on how we can use them and what that really means for us as individuals, as students, and as professionals. So if you can take time now as a student to really master some of these skills, it's going to change your professional life. So this isn't just something that's good for students. This is good for people, all people. So when you think about time management, those two words, is there anything specifically that comes to mind? Just take a minute and think about, what does that mean? And so when I did that activity, I thought of schedules, calendars, to-do lists, those sorts of things, like things that put me into a box of that felt really rigid, and that I couldn't break out of. And I don't know, I didn't love that feeling. And so initially as a student, I really rejected this whole idea of time management. I didn't need that. I was successful already. So why did I need to change or find routine or anything like that? But what I came to realize is that time management is really you management. So figuring out what to do with yourself. We have a finite number of hours in the day, so time doesn't change. We all have 24 hours, and some of those hours are going to be completely dictated for you. You can't do anything about them, right? So there's going to be times you have to go to class or work or both. There's going to be times you have to sleep. That's pretty important. Actually, you'll fall asleep if you're not getting enough sleep, so you're going to sleep even if you don't want to. And then there's like random life activities that happen, right? So you have to drive places. There's travel time. You got to eat. Eventually, you're going to have to go to the bathroom. All of those things throughout the day are going to take up some time in your life. So if you think about that structure, we're really only talking about 7 hours a day that you control. When you think about your 24-hour block, you're sleeping for 8, right? I mean, pretty close to 8. You're going to school for 8-ish or studying. You've got those other tasks, 7 hours. That's all that's left. So when you break it down like that, what are you doing with those 7 hours? Where are they going? So I think really when you're thinking about time management, you have to do a study of the time that you're already using, because you're already managing your time. It just might not be as effective as you want it to be. So luckily, a lot of our app providers and phone providers have given us this really nifty tool called Screen Time that will tell us exactly what we're doing with our time. The week that Animal Crossing came out, I got this notification from Apple that says, congratulations, you've reduced your screen time by 24% this week. And I was like, no, I just switched to another screen. But my phone didn't know that. So if you could just take some time to look at where you're spending those 7 hours, look and see how much time you're spending texting or mindlessly scrolling Instagram or chatting on Discord or whatever you're doing on your phone. Um, Take that into account. It could feel like 5 minutes. It's not a big deal. Like, I only played Candy Crush for 5 minutes. But if you do that 10 times a day, that's a whole hour. So little things really add up. And so if you can take some time to evaluate what you're doing with your time now, it's really going to help you prioritize and be more effective at your time management later. So that's really the first place to start, because you're already doing those things. You're already managing your time. Now we just need to make a list so we can shuffle it up and put the things that need to be done on the top and give some time to the fun stuff a little closer to the bottom. So really the point of time management is you need a goal, right? What are you trying to accomplish with this task, with this whole restructuring of your schedule in your life? If you don't know why you're doing it, you're not going to stick to it. You're just not. So maybe your goal is to feel less stress as you have deadlines coming up, or your goal is to stay on top of assignments so that you're not turning things in late all the time. Or maybe your goal is to study a little bit every day so that whenever you have a test come up, you're not cramming and, just studying for the test, not keeping any of that material in your head after the test is over. All of these things are good goals, and maybe all of them are goals that you have, but you need to determine what you want to get out of it, because that's going to help you prioritize the list that you're going to make of all of those things you're already doing. And then the next thing you have to do is find a tool that works for you. Time management doesn't happen in your head. It's never going to happen there. If you can keep things in your head, that's great. I know you genuinely feel like you've got it all together, but I guarantee you're forgetting things or you're not being as effective as you could be. So find a tool that works for you. It can be digital. It can be analog. It doesn't matter. It can be an index card you keep in your back pocket that you update every day. It can be an app on your phone. Doesn't matter, but you've got to find something that is structured and works for you. And so,
I love that you said that, Dawn, because
yeah.
I had a conversation about this after college with one of my who was putting a presentation together kind of like this. And she had an ask for other college students or alum to say, what was your method for time management? And she got a lot of great responses from young women about the different types of planners that they were using or the formats, but none from young men. And so she actually called us out and she said, I know there's a lot of you who are seeing this. Please respond and let us know what your methods were. And it was interesting to see that, because almost all of us said we didn't use planners, even though the college gave us free planners every year. And I always thought I was going to use it. I never did. And it sounded like none of the other guys were actually using them either. So I thought that was kind of interesting, the contrast, the difference between the young men and the young women. And I actually thought about it, and I was using my calendar on my phone as my planner, basically, just scheduling things I have to do at specific times, and then sticky notes, which is I would not say it's the best method. I wouldn't recommend it, but I was using a lot of sticky notes and just little notes throughout my binders, my notebooks, depending on if it's for a certain class, I would put in a certain area. If it was for extracurriculars, I would put in another area. If it was social and something else, and they were all over the place. But I knew that's what worked for me, because I knew exactly where to find my notes for certain things. So I knew where they were, and that worked for me. But I think everyone does have their own way. I just never developed, I was never very intentional about how I was going to do my planning. I just knew I had to do something. And so I kind of just did what I had on hand, with sticky notes or notebooks or my calendar and my phone. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that. I'm actually curious to see what the other folks on the call use as their preferred method for keeping themselves organized.
So I use a mix in my life because I'm on the go constantly. So my digital calendar is extremely important, especially for future planning, like months out. But weekly, I pull those things out of my digital calendar and put them in my analog system, my planner, my bullet journal, to keep track of those things that are kind of happening to me right now, and then breaking those things down further. I've just found that process works the best for me. So it's a mix for sure for me.
I use both as well. I like to use my digital calendar. And then I also do this brainstorming process. I use an Excel spreadsheet and just kind of free flow what I need to do and when I think it's due. And then I sort it by date due. So first I just brainstorm. So the thing I need to do, maybe some more details, and then when it's due in another column. And then I can sort by date due. And then that forces me to do the things I've been avoiding because they're due first. Instead of just doing the things I want to do, once I sort the spreadsheet by when it's due, I do the things that are actually more important rather than the things I want to do. And I'll even print it so I can scratch things off my list and feel like I did something.
Is there anything more satisfying than checking off a list?
Right. No, it feels really, really good.
That's
so I think a mix of tools that you find useful is really helpful.
When you're doing your brain dump into your spreadsheet, do you ever do you save those spreadsheets? Do you go back and use them for anything, like logging of what you've done for the year or anything?
What? Yeah, there's all sorts of notes on it. I have like a whole stack of these. And then sometimes things from this go on to the next one. And then I remember
I love that.
I wanted to be on my youth web portal team right here. They become living documents, and then I transfer things onto the new one.
Do you ever look back through them and just feel hyper accomplished? Like, oh my gosh, I'm incredible.
Yeah, or sometimes I'm like, oh, I never did that.
Well, that means it
must not have been that important. It never happened.
It was taking up room for no reason. Are there any tools that you have been interested in that you just haven't tried yet, or you thought, dang, that's wicked smart, but I don't think that would work for me?
For me, I tried to do the bullet journaling on an iPad.
No, I talked to you about that for a while. I was so excited.
I tried really hard to get switched over, and it just never worked for me.
In theory, when I see you done, and I know it works really well for you, it looks so cool and so organized and amazing. And yeah, for me, it's just, I think I'm still using my
sticky
phone
note
calendar.
method.
Well, it's more digital now than it was in college, but I'm still keeping like a note, like I have a separate note, but even in the calendar, within the calendar event, I create a note. And so a lot of times I have a little to-do list in that note, and I have like a deadline, or I use exclamation marks. To me, is like an exclamation mark is me telling myself, you better do this. And that's communicating to my future self, this has to get done. Is if there's an exclamation mark, I know I need to do that.
Yeah, that's where my highlighters come out. If you see highlighting in my bullet journal, it's serious.
Yeah.
That is definitely something I've been avoiding for a while. Oh,
this is my live and die by.
Look at the flaming chicklet. Oh,
yeah, isn't he cool?
Love him.
Get onto the iPad bullet journaling, but I still live by what you taught me with a bullet journal. So I have my important first pages, and a lot of that goes into my next journal when I fill this one. So my first pages always have my most important information that I want to transfer into my next journal. And then of course the index, which is the most important piece of my journal, because then I know what things on what page. Then my monthly. So see, I'm doing a pretty good job. Oh, you can't
You're
see
doing a really good job.
My monthly layout, and then daily layouts, and they all vary depending on my mood.
Yep. Sometimes mine are upside down and sideways and backwards, and sometimes they're like
I kind of
gorgeous.
have a thing of yeah, week at a glance is my big thing. And then I'll do like Monday and I'll write all the important things that I need to do on Monday. And then I go in, but sometimes I'll go ahead a couple days. Sometimes I just do it day by day. Sometimes I go in retro, do it. Like we were talking. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
what did I do yesterday? Oh, all these things. And I go and I make my little check boxes and I still check them off because it was so cool.
I
And
think
then
one of
you
my
have
favorite
that.
things.
This goes in my purse. And I never have lost it because everybody goes, oh, I might lose that. I go, no, I live and die by this. It is in my purse or by my computer, pretty much always. So I never have lost it. And I'm not the most, I mean, I've lost things, trust me, but I've never lost a journal.
One of my favorite things to have heard, I think it came from Don in one of your presentations, was that you could tell, like someone could tell you a date and time in the past, and you could go back and tell them what you were doing on that day.
Same.
And that to me is just incredible because I hadn't thought about ever doing that. And looking back into my own calendars and seeing, 3 or 4 years ago, it's almost like your own like memories thing, like social media has like the memories on this day, it tells you what you do.
Yes.
You're kind of creating that for yourself, but with your own like schedule and to-do list and planner.
You know what's really funny is the institution I worked at before I worked with y'all hit me up actually about a year ago. It was really funny. One of my previous bosses said, do you remember when we met with the architects when we were building the School of Nursing, and we met with Catherine and the architects and the fundraising chair? And I said, no. I mean, yeah, I remember the meeting, but that was like 5 years ago. And he goes, I know you put that stuff in your book. Will you please go get that and take a picture of it and send it to me? And some funds had been misassigned in a budget. And so there was some wonkiness going on. But I had in there how much we had talked about that day. And they used my bullet journal to fix the budgets from 5 years ago.
Oh,
How
wow.
wild is that?
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I'm like, I guess I can find that. It's probably somewhere. I don't know. I've moved twice since then. So yeah, it is pretty cool to have like this life archive